Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Canucks Conversation in our new digs. We're live at the Sheraton Wall Center, iconic Wall Center. Dave Quadrelli, alongside my new co-host, Harman Dayal. I'm wearing a suit, partly because it's our first episode in the new studio, Harman, the new format of the show, but also because there's a Canucks game tonight, which we'll get to later. Harman, thank you for joining me. Very excited to have you on board, and look at this studio. The green backlighting just absolutely pops.
Well, I was going to say, I know it's a big day because I've never seen Quads dress up in a suit for one of these shows before. And not only that, but you got the fresh cut. I know you spent some time doing your hair because, man, last show on Friday when I was doing a guest spot, complete opposite. You were ripping crown. Your hair was all over the place. I had to come pick you up to visit the studio after. And you're just forgetting things in Faber's apartment. It was a complete 180. You've leveled up. I know it's a big day, and like you said, the studio is beautiful.
Bear with us, folks. We're gonna have a few, I'm sure, technical difficulties at times. The look of the show is gonna change because our man Tyler Yaremchuk flew all the way from Edmonton to get us set literally moments before the show started. He was hooking up cameras and stuff, and the new camera that we have isn't quite ready to go, so we're using a bit of an older camera right now, so the quality of the visual I think is going to improve a little bit as well. But look at this. We got our Crown bottle, we've got our Four Winds light lager, we've got an Elias Pettersson signed draft puck there, and I think we're going to play with this overlay. We're going to do some different stuff. Like, I think eventually we'll get to just a big box on YouTube of just us, and then we'll get the overlays and all that kind of worked out, because someone already pointed out, what is this, a podcast for ants? Because yes, we are a little small on the YouTube live show, but this is also a podcast. So before we do that, we should mention that we are brought to you by the great folks over at Zephyr Epic. You can use promo code hockey season, capital H, capital S, all one word, hockey season. That will get you $5 off your order at zephyrepic.com. If you shop online, that's ZEPHYR epic.com. Check out the retail location in Surrey as well. Fine folks out there at Zephyr Epic. We've got our hockey cards here. Let's open these up. This is a bit of a tradition on this show.
You go first because I'm the worst at opening wrappers.
You get used to it. So what I found is if you pull the back, right? If you pull the back right there, you can really get some. It becomes very easy. It becomes pretty easy. So
great trick.
Look at you go. Yeah, look at you go. So you should go to the middle. That's what we usually do. So I got a Young Guns of Josh Brown, and definitely the camera's not going to be able to pick that up, but I've got a Young Guns of Josh Brown with the Panthers. Harman, what did you pull?
Let's see. Go straight to the middle, you were saying?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't go through the base cards. If you pull like a Canuck.
Oh, right. Okay. I get what you mean. I get what you mean.
Like I pulled like Matt Murray, so I didn't announce that.
I think I got a cool Taylor Hall one here.
All right. What'd you pull? Oh, yeah. No, that's a base card.
I don't know hockey cards. I think this Taves one, I think.
Also a base card.
Wow.
Okay, we'll wrap up this. If you want to go get your own hockey cards, visit zephyrepic.com. Free shipping Canada-wide on any order over $50. We should also mention, I don't know if we're bringing him in on the first show, but our technical producer, the man at the controls, is Grady Sass. Hello, there he is. He's there right now.
We're no camera yet for me.
Yeah, we're gonna get you an ISO cam first.
See the magic behind the scenes here.
It's looking good. It's looking good. People are asking us to hit the crown. The big boss, Jay Downton, our CEO, is in town, and he's coming on the show later. But he was just in the studio and said, "Oh, can you guys buy another bottle of Crown and not drink it?" I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no problem." Like, he wasn't mad. He was just like, "Yeah, I'm not sure if we're supposed to drink it or not." And I was like, "Well, whatever." Anyways, so we're getting a new bottle of Crown, and that'll just be ours to crack into whenever we want, Harman. So let's get into it. Let's get into what happened over the weekend for the Vancouver Canucks. It was a 2-0 win over the 7-1-1 at the time Dallas Stars, a shutout for Thatcher Demko. Let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, he was the team's most important player in the first period, right? I didn't love Vancouver's opening frame. I thought they didn't generate a lot offensively, in the Stars' first two power plays in particular, they were getting a lot. They were crashing the net hard, lots of slot deflections. Obviously, the robbery he had on one of the Stars' first power plays stands out. And then to keep it even keel going into the second, that's when the Canucks took over and they defended really well, started generating some offense. But if it wasn't for Demko in that first period, the Canucks could have been trailing going into the second, and it could be a totally different ball game, especially when you're then chasing a game, trying to score on Jake Ottinger, who has been nearly as hot as Thatcher Demko and looked sensational. How many times did he rob Brock Besser, especially in the second period there?
Quinn Hughes.
Oh, man. He was a wall for them, too. And that's where the Canucks, I mean, so many different angles you could look at it. Obviously, they took the game over in the second, but I thought the way they so clinically and professionally defended that third period lead, to me, that was one of the most important aspects of the game. One of the areas that I looked at and went, I'm really impressed with the progress this team is making.
It was funny because we've talked about how each win has told us something different about this year's team. We even talked about it in the context of the San Jose Sharks winning that game and just going about their business, being a professional hockey team in every sense of the word. That meant something. And we broke that down on the last episode. But this game also told us another thing, and it's that they can hang with these contending teams. And when you have a start like the Canucks, there's going to be people out there who are trying to poke holes in everything you're doing, right? Their PDO is high. We've talked about all this stuff, but the way they handled the Dallas Stars in that game, that's what you wanted to see from them on that night, because that was them going up against a contending team, and that was their stars playing like their stars and all of their supporting pieces coming out and being on the same page. Like it wasn't a game where they had guys or a guy who you looked at and said, would have liked to see more. Like Tyler Myers has been playing well, lately on this stretch, right? And the same was true in that game against Dallas. And I think that's what you're learning about this team is when they need to, they're all out and they're all ready to go. The problem is, how many more times are we going to see slip ups, right? Because we saw it against Philadelphia, and look, we brought it up so many times. Talking nipped that in the bud right away, right? Like he immediately got on top of them because of that, right? I think that this team is not only going to win tonight, but I think this team is now proving themselves to be a playoff team. I don't think it's too early to say that.
Well, they've built themselves an incredible head start, especially when you look at Calgary struggling, Seattle struggling, a couple teams that you looked at before the season as direct competitors with the Canucks for playoff spots. And I like what you mentioned in terms of there being no passengers in that Stars game. To me, that was another encouraging aspect of the game, because this wasn't a night where Pettersson, Hughes, and Miller were just single-handedly taking over, right? We've had games like that where the power play goes bonkers. It's the star power really carrying this team. You look at Quinn Hughes, he looked a little bit off on Saturday, which is going to happen. Elite players have games where it didn't look bad, but you could see he was whiffing on a couple passes here and there, slipped a couple times, just losing an edge. And what happened was, okay, then Filip Hronek comes in and he plays arguably the best game of his season, logging nearly 26 minutes a game. Gorgeous setup to Pettersson where, okay, yeah, you look at the score after and you go, okay, Pettersson scored, top guy carrying the team. But that goal was all Hronek. The way that he took the puck at the point there, faked the shot, got all of the Stars defenders sort of collapsing in that shot lane, and then to find Pettersson backdoor. I mean, what a gorgeous play there. And even though I also want to shout out, like, I think this was the third line's best game. When you look at Pius Suter, Dakota Joshua, Connor Garland, it feels like they've struggled to find their identity, their, offensive stride, their energy, their speed. And I thought they were excellent against the Stars. And it's notable to me because Dallas is the type of team, they basically have two second lines. So that Suter line had to have a lot of shifts against the Jamie Benn line, the Tyler Seguin line. And in those minutes, just one shot against at 5-on-5. Obviously, they came through with Suter scoring as well, but also just the way Garland was stealing pucks back, the physicality, heft, and defensive plays we saw from Joshua. It finally felt like the third line came together and brought something to the table, which again was crucial because top guys played well, but they weren't necessarily carrying the game all by themselves.
Dakota Joshua with 7 hits in that game, but you pointed this out. Rick Tocchet not giving him much love post-game. I think we have the clip here, Grady. This is Rick Tocchet. I included the question from Brendan Batchelor so you can hear the context of what was asked, and the way Tocchet answered it, not much love to Dakota Joshua, who had 7 hits in that game after being a healthy scratch.
Put Dakota Joshua back in the lineup tonight. What did you like from his game seemed like he was more engaged physically? And did he respond well in your mind to the healthy scratch from the other night?
Yeah, I mean, I got to look at the tape. I thought he was pretty good. Yeah, I mean, listen, he's a big guy. We're playing a Dallas team that's, they play a playoff heavy style. We need guys like him to win battles and then get to the net.
So what I found interesting about that was, yes, Tocchet was complimentary about Joshua there, but watching Joshua's sort of overall game, how intense he played, the physicality, how many battles he won. Can you contrast the way that Tocchet wasn't necessarily showering Joshua with compliments after that game? It was an interesting contrast to like when we were in Edmonton and Nils Höglander had a strong game, not even as good a game as Joshua had last night, arguably. And Tocchet was sort of praising like specific plays, like what a huge shot block he had, the energy, the speed. Oh, he's been spending extra time doing video with the Sedins. And I think I have a theory for why, right? That morning skate before the game, Tocchet had sort of cited that Joshua's sort of problem was consistency, right? That he can have a good game, but it's about stringing it time after time after time again. And I wonder if part of what Tocchet was sort of doing there was making sure that Josh was not getting too high, because look, the players see anything a coach says. When a coach is answering the media's questions, it's not just, oh, they're answering the media's questions. Everything is sort of calculated in how they respond. And I think the key there was sort of making sure that Joshua doesn't get too comfortable after one game, because I think the coaching staff knows that Joshua can have one big performance. It's, can he maintain that high level of energy? Because earlier in the season, there's just been too many games where he hasn't had that same level of urgency, and it's taken him a lot of sort of message sending from the coaching staff. Even in training camp, Tocchet sort of specifically calling Joshua out and saying he needs to really pick it up. And I think that's what I'm really sort of interested to see for him over these next few games, is can he maintain the level that he showed the other night? And I honestly think that he could really benefit from taking a page out of Phil DiGiuseppe's playbook, in terms of like, that's a guy who knows his role and has a nonstop motor every night. And that's where I think Joshua could really benefit in terms of his own game.
As you can read right now over at CanucksArmy.com, Teddy Bluger skated today. It was his first time skating, but he's not in the lineup tonight. He's not in the lineup. He was kind of a passenger at morning skate today. It's a conversation we'll dive into more, Harman, tomorrow. But where does Teddy Bluger fit in all of this? Like, who's coming out when Teddy Bluger goes in? Because, look, we just talked about Dakota Joshua needing to have a consistent effort night in and night out. Tonight's a good test for him as well against an Edmonton Oilers team who really, if you think about it, we'll pull up the lines later on. McDavid, Draisaitl on the same line at 5-on-5. Joshua's not getting that matchup. Like, that's not going to be Joshua's matchup. That's going to be the Miller line once again. And we'll talk more about that, the Oilers game preview, a little bit later. But you look at it right now, the bottom six matchup, I look at guys like Connor Garland. I look at guys like Nils Höglander, Dakota Joshua, and say, those guys need to have big games tonight against the Oilers.
Anthony Beauvillier as well, right? And this is where Edmonton's bottom six really hasn't generated a lot of offense. And when you know you're going to get softer matchups, this is where you want the rest of your lineup to really step up. Because if it's, let's say the Miller line getting that tough matchup, Hughes and Hronek, you're essentially happy if you play them to a draw, right? Against the McDavid line. You're not trying to necessarily win those minutes. And so it's up to the rest of the lineup to then go out and win at 5-on-5. And that's obviously the Pettersson line is going to be essential. I think that's a huge X factor for them, but also the names that you mentioned, absolutely, they need to show more energy. And that's why, again, going back to that San Jose game, I think it was huge for Suter to get his first goal, for Beauvillier to get a pair as well, just to build their confidence up, get the monkey off the back. And then you saw it with Suter again, getting on the board again. Now those guys are starting to feel good. They're not entering this game at a low point in their confidence, in their overall vibe about how they're sort of feeling. And that is so huge, because the mental side of the game, man, it's an intangible, but it makes such a massive difference in the types of plays that you're looking to make. And absolutely, those guys are going to need to be huge for the Canucks.
Guy who I'm hoping is huge for me tonight, Elias Pettersson, because I picked him as my pick in the Wendy's Daily Faceoff Survivor game. Wendy's is offering fresh prizes all season long with Wendy's Daily Face-Off Survivor Fantasy. The game lives weekly on dailyfaceoff.com with weekly prizes and a season-long prize of $5,000 up for grabs. It's simple. You sign up, play, and then you get free stuff on the Wendy's app. You pick a prop that will happen in that game, and the longer you survive with correct answers, the more you can win from Wendy's. I'll tell you what, me and about half the people that were still in the game last week got eliminated when Philadelphia beat Buffalo. That was, I knew so many people that picked that game, and they picked the Sabres to win, like myself, and then the Flyers came back and won, or not even came back, they just won that game. And look, Buffalo didn't really start in that game, which really sucked to see. But anyways, I was out last week. I'm hoping to be in it this week.
I told you, Philly's the actual trap team. You're talking about the other, last week, San Jose, a trap game. It's like the worst team of all time, arguably. Can't be a trap game. It's a team like Philly. I'm telling you, man.
Look at this change on the fly. I don't know. Look at your screen. Like, look at what Grady Sass, our producer, has done here. Holy cow!
Working the magic.
People were already in the chat like, guys, I can't see you. It's too. This is beautiful.
I was just worried that the top, the graphics would cut your guys' head off, but that seems to be working okay. So
this looks great.
Let us know in the chat what you guys think. What you prefer.
Yeah, I really like it. I think it looks great. But I got to finish this about Wendy's. So. While you obsess over your dream team over on Wendy's Daily Face-Off Survivor Fantasy, you can reward that dedication with Wendy's new obsession, the Very Real Barbecue Bacon Cheeseburger. Freshly added to the Wendy's lineup, enjoy the Applewood smoked bacon, crispy onions as cheese melts over the fresh, never frozen Canadian beef. Sign up now for the Wendy's Daily Face-Off Survivor game. I think we'll talk about our picks. We're going to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We'll talk about our picks, see how we're doing in the week. It's Monday, folks. There's still time. You can go sign up now. Pick your prop for the game tonight and see how long you survive. It's a fun game. It's really fun over at dailyfaceoff.com. Okay. Did you want to get to this right now? I think we should. Let's get to it. Because me and Grady went out for lunch yesterday, and you said I got a take about the Dallas Stars roster construction and how it relates to the Vancouver Canucks and what they can learn about theirs. Explain.
Yeah, so essentially with Dallas coming into town, I was sort of thinking about Dallas's evolution as a team, right? Because if you look at the end of the 2021-22 season, Dallas was sort of this fringe playoff team that nobody was talking about as an actual cup contender. They've really leveled up and taken that next step where everybody now looks at them as one of the best teams in the Western Conference. They obviously made the Western Conference final last year. And as a starting point and as a template for the Canucks situation, I think there are some similarities in terms of roster composition and even cap situation, right? Because you look at the Stars 2 years ago, they had an elite defenseman to build around with Miro Heiskanen, but the rest of their blue line was definitely lackluster and kind of still is. One of the best first lines in the NHL with Hintz, Robertson, Pavelski, but they were essentially a sort of one-line offensive team, just didn't have enough difference makers beyond that. Stud young goalie in Jake Ottinger. And the key here is that you didn't love their cap situation because they had Tyler Seguin as their highest forward, making nearly $10 million, and Jamie Bennett, 9.5, who was underperforming his contract. So it's like you had a couple of cap obstacles to work around as well. And I remember 2 years ago looking at the Stars and sort of thinking, man, how are they going to take that next step? Like, are they forever stuck in this sort of purgatory of being good enough to make the playoffs, but not quite good enough to actually sort of contend for a cup? And before I get into sort of what we can learn, I'm just kind of curious do you see the similarities there in terms of like as a starting point with the Canucks' sort of base pieces when you mention like Pettersson, Hughes, Demko, a couple of non-ideal contracts on the Canucks' books?
Well, when you talk about Pettersson, Demko, Hughes, I think you were talking about the best forward, defense, and goaltending combination in the entire league. Like, Colorado comes close, but I don't trust their goalie as much as I trust Thatcher Demko. And I don't think as highly of Georgiev as I do Thatcher Demko. So when you look at it from that perspective, I think, yeah, the Canucks have the best starting point, but that's what they've had for years now, right? Like, it's not like these guys just came to Vancouver. They've been here for a few years now. So it is about building around it, and it is about navigating those troublesome contracts that you have on your books. So yes, I see the similarities. The thing I wonder, Harman, is, and I know you have more on this, so I'll let you kind of get back to it, but you did an exercise at The Athletic, I think it was a year or two years ago, where you examined how far the Canucks really are from being in that contending status in terms of their roster composition. I'm curious just to get your thoughts of what do they need now to get to that spot?
Well, and this is where obviously the blue line stands as another sort of crucial area, finding a real 3C, maybe another impact top six forward. It's not that they need a lot of pieces, but this is a challenge that I've been trying to explain. It's that how do you find those pieces and fit them under the cap, A, and B, acquire them when you don't have a ton of sort of trade assets to necessarily work with, and you don't have, let's say, like a deep prospect pipeline that you can just trade away blue chip prospects and not really sort of care about. And this is where the similarity with Dallas sort of stands out to me, because obviously they had the coaching change, Peter DeBoer coming in, which made a huge difference. Their best players sort of took another step up, which we're kind of seeing in Vancouver this season as well. But to me, how they fit those difference makers under the cap was they hit on their first round picks, right? The last couple of years, we've started to see Wyatt Johnston come in as a middle six center. He was a 23rd overall pick. And then Thomas Harley in the playoffs came in as a top 4 defenseman. And that changed the dynamic of that team, because it wasn't just Johnson coming in and he's scoring 24 goals as a rookie, but now all of a sudden it lifted up Jamie Benn, and it's like you've got 2 sort of new players almost in a way when you consider how much of a breakout Ben had last year. And so you think, okay, what does that mean from Vancouver's perspective? It's like when you look at Tom Willander, for instance, if within the next couple of years, 2-3 years, he can step in and be a difference maker on this blue line, especially when it's Vancouver's biggest area of need, and do it on an ELC, like that's a type of thing that could like change your roster, change your ceiling as a team.
And when we've had these conversations in years past where, we see them taking shortcuts. We see the Philip Hronek trade and we call it a shortcut, for example, right? That's the thing that we kept pointing out is you don't have enough, and you don't have enough help coming on those ELCs, because that's a thing that's very common with almost every cup contender is they've got those players on those ELCs, those really high-end difference makers. And this is something Botch talked about a lot, right? Was when Pettersson was on their ELC, the Canucks' inability to contend during Pettersson's ELC, that's bad. Like that was very bad, a very bad position for the Canucks to be in. Look, it's the past. The past is the past, but they need those ELC difference makers. So you look at a guy like even Hunter Brustevich, who's right now is leading the OHL in points. We've been seeing his development right before our eyes. Look, I don't know if he's coming into the NHL next year per se, but you've got Willander, you've got Brustevich, you've got Arshdeep Bains, who right now is leading the AHL in points. Like you're starting to see this development where this was a weakness of this organization in the past, was their development. And yeah, their prospect pipeline isn't phenomenal by any means. Like they don't really have those high-end difference makers. Maybe Willander can become one. Maybe Brustevich can also become one. But Karamaki, exactly. Karamaki also, I think, 3rd in the SHL right now in goals. These guys taking the next step and developing and coming in on ELCs, that's what's not only going to make the Canucks good now, but also in the future. Like you need to keep these guys coming if you're the Vancouver Canucks.
And it's not just as supporting pieces, right? It's as, and this is where, let's say a guy like Arshdeep Bains, while I love what he's doing, and I think he can absolutely help in an NHL role this season, because he's 22, because he's an older prospect, I don't think anybody's sort of expecting him to sort of come in and be like a definitive core player, right? And that's where you're more so concentrated and focused on your absolute cream of the crop top prospects, which again comes down to Willander and Karamaki, especially because, in a couple of years, the Canucks are going to have a couple of wingers when you look at Kuzmenko, when you look at Besser, with expiring contracts, and those guys make money, and it helps to sort of, if you have another young right wing goal scorer coming in who it's like this guy can come in and potentially supplement that, and you can reallocate cap dollars to upgrading the blue line or finding a legit 3C. Like those are the things that can be real game changers. And I know this is more of a big picture conversation than necessarily a conversation about the team this season, but it was just interesting and sort of came to my mind when Dallas came in, just because I think that's the closest template for, okay, the ultimate goal isn't just making the playoffs in terms of the big picture. It's we want to see this team contend for a cup. I think Dallas coming into town was my reminder that, okay, this might be the closest template for the Canucks situation, and what can they learn in terms of taking that next step.
Okay. Anything else on that before we go to anyone else presented by DoorDash?
I think that's it.
Let's hear from the people. It's time for the people to get their comments in. It's time for anyone else, presented by DoorDash. It's our listeners' chance to get involved and hit us up. I should say viewers now, and hit us up in the YouTube live chat. And it's also our viewers' chance to get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more. That's right. For a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when they download the DoorDash app and enter code NATION25. That's NATION25, all capital letters, NATION25 for 25% off, up to $10 value, and 0 delivery fees on that. Offer valid in Canada, subject to change. Terms, of course, do apply. Okay, do we got anything in the YouTube live chat here? RW Hockey and I got into it a little bit. I'm going to start there.
All right.
RW Hockey, I want to reach out to you because he said, LOL, Canucks were rebuilding during Elias Pettersson's ELC. And then he called me numbnuts, which I didn't appreciate. I heard Grady laugh from the other room. Grady laughed.
Honestly, that's a good chirp.
It was a good chirp.
Does rebuilding team sign Jay Beagle and Anton
Thank
Roussel
you. And that's what I said.
to multi-year contracts?
I said that's not even close to true. That's not close to what happened. They were trying to compete. They just didn't do it well. And look, this is something I brought up on the last show. What we're seeing, and RW Hockey, thank you for your contribution. I hope you like playing ball a little bit. But and he even said true. They should have been rebuilding, but they were instead content on 9th place again, which is actually what happened. Like, that is exactly what happened with this team. But when we look back at that, yeah, they should have been rebuilding. They weren't. But you look at what Pettersson was producing on his ELC. Like last year, we saw the goals per dollar paid or whatever, and Kuzmenko was the most valuable player in the league in the true sense of the word in terms of dollar value. Pettersson was close to that too during his ELC, won the Calder, obviously, right? Like, the fact that they couldn't compete during that is unfortunate, but we brought it up on the last show. I think what we're seeing right now is a management regime that kind of understands, one, roster building, but two, roles on the roster, like what guys need to do. We like the acquisition of Ian Cole, these low cost, low risk acquisitions. Like, look, I know that it looks like they're a playoff team right now, but like, how much would Ryan O'Reilly help this team right now instead of Pius Suter, right? Like, they could have done that, but they didn't. And I know I bring it up all the time, so I got to stop bringing it up. I apologize for that, folks, but I like what they're doing right now. I like the roster composition. I like that they're not trading all of their picks and they still have these guys coming in that might be able to be impact players on ELCs when you need them to. You said it, Harm. That's how you become a cup contender. That's their path to it.
And the challenge too is obviously your top players, like you mentioned the ELC window, but the Canucks have, when you look at some of their other contracts, certain windows that you need to sort of be mindful of too, right? This season, for example, Pettersson is an absolute steal, and the way he's going, man, he's going to get all the money, right? Hronek as well, man. Alan Walsh is just having an absolute field day with the start he's had. I mean, Hronek is what, top 5 among all NHL defensemen in points right now, that's really difficult to do when you aren't quarterbacking a top power play unit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you look at most of the guys who lead defensemen in scoring every year, they're usually PP1 guys because as a defenseman, it's just hard to produce a lot of points otherwise. So I'm actually surprised at how much he's already produced and is ratcheting up his market value. So yeah, it's going to be another challenge, but also then you look at like Demko's contract is another timeline to be mindful of. He's making $5 million. The way he's playing right now, that's an absolute steal. Quinn Hughes' contract, how long you have him at under $8 million? That's one of the best contracts in the NHL as well. So those are the other two windows that you sort of need to be cognizant of. And that's why there's a lot of thought that needs to be put into. It's not just what pieces do you have in your roster, what names do you have, how much star power do you have? It's okay, how much do they cost? When do their contracts come up? What can we afford? And that's why, you know, it feels like the world is about to collapse in Edmonton because they know how much of a bargain McDavid and Draisaitl are, and they're just not able to take advantage of it so far this season.
Some really good contributions in the YouTube live chat that I want to get to here. Sniper847 pointed out Tyler Myers hasn't been on the ice for an even strength goal against since October 24th versus Nashville. And Talkett has pointed out multiple times that he thought Myers has really stepped up his game, and it's very hard to disagree with that. Obviously, there was that shorthanded goal against the Rangers, which was absolutely electric. I think that's the best moment that's happened at Rogers Arena this season. But he's been good. Like, he's actually been playing better. And look, I don't mean to rehash the past in the start of the season, which is a month ago, but he was borderline unplayable at the start of the year, at the start of that road trip, games 2 through 4. I would say it was actively costing them games. And that Tampa one especially, right? And he's cleaned it up big time. I think he's really simplified his game. I think I'd be interested to see how much of that comes from coaching, because we talk about the coaching staff a lot. You know, how much does that just come down to, okay, maybe when you make a play, you've got to move back to the middle, because I think that's always been the gripe with Myers. There's just a few little things in his game, but one we always notice is chips the puck out, watches it. But the good defensemen, what they do, chip the puck out back to the middle. Like, they start cheating back to the middle. They get back to the middle of the ice. And I think that's cost Myers a few times this year, but I think that's one thing that I've noticed. And that's the reason I pick it, is that's one thing I've noticed he started to clean up. I wonder if that was just a message from the coaching staff, one of the Hall of Famers that they have on staff.
It's also just the forward support. I mean, Ian Cole, for example, when we were in the locker room talking to him about shutting out the Stars, and there was a question asked him about, not just Demko, but the overall play of the defensive group, sort of what's been the key. And the first thing Cole highlighted was that, well, it's not just us, it's as a 5-man unit. We're getting a lot more support from the forwards. Mm-hmm. And that's when watching, especially those weekend games, the Blues and the Rangers, and I know those are a while back, but it's when it first sort of stood out to me was we've seen Myers make slip-ups on the breakout. What you noticed is the winger was sort of coming a lot deeper to provide better passing angles. And then you'd also have a center coming deep so that Myers had multiple passing options on the breakout. And now all of a sudden you're keeping that forechecker honest. And it's a much easier pass to make, as opposed to a lot of times we talk about this team's breakout issues. And yeah, the defensemen aren't the best puck movers, but the forwards also need to give the defensemen options. Otherwise they have no choice but to go flip or off the glass, or they're being forced to try and make home run plays that are riskier in nature. And that's where just watching a couple of his breakouts, credit to the forwards as well for providing much better sort of, back pressure when opposing puck carriers are trying to create offensive entries. And then when there is chip and chase, defensemen have more options in the breakout.
There's a few good questions in here, and we got to get to Jay soon, so we can't get to all of them, but a few that I just want to quickly answer with 2 yeses. The first one from War89 said Hughes for Norris. Yes, absolutely. He's
been the best defenseman in the league right now. I mean,
absolutely.
He's got not only an edge in points, but I think it was 3 or 4 points last time I checked. So it's not even, when you consider how few games have been played so far, it's a big margin. And then also last week I was looking at even 5-on-5 shots against, who's 13th best among all NHL defensemen who'd played at least 100 5-on-5 minutes. So it's like, even ignoring the points, shots against, preventing quality looks, one of the top defensemen in the league, 5-on-5 goals against, has barely been tagged. He's playing all situations. He's been an absolute horse. He's, to this point, been the best defenseman in the league this year.
We got to get your boy Dom on. Let him know. He's supposed to be in tier 1, Dom. Okay. A couple other ones here. Someone asked if Hronik's contract is going to be more than Hughes in terms of AAV. I think, yeah, if he keeps this up.
It's too early to say. That's because fair. For as much as Hronik's gotten off to this hot start in terms of point production wise, again, look at the end of the season with the defensemen that put up 55, 60, 65 points. Those guys typically play power play 1. So I wonder if at some point, at least his point production will cool off, which, even though Hronik can continue to play his all-around game as well as he has to this point, he may not just rack up as many points. And that all of a sudden brings down the potential price of his contract. Plus, we're still waiting on comparables. Like, the D-mark is shifting. I mean, Rasmus Dahlin set a higher bar. We know the cap's going to be going up. We're waiting to see what happens with Noah Hannafin. And
might be waiting a while for that too.
I think the market is just way too, early right now to have a definitive answer about what range he might slot in terms of the value of his next contract. It's a shifting marketplace because of the rising cap.
Okay. Let's get the 4 wins contest. It's the Light the Lamp contest brought to you by our friends at 4 Winds Brewing. We got their light lagers, the brand new 4 Winds light lager right at the front of our desks here. Vancouver's playing Edmonton tonight, and we want to know who's going to score the first goal for Vancouver. If you nail it, you could win a $25 gift card to the 4 Winds Tap Room located at 72nd and River Road in Delta. Enter by following us on social media. Keep an eye out for today's show clip and comment who you think will light the lamp and score the first goal tonight. Winners will be contacted directly. Check us out at Canucks Army or at Canucks Convo on Twitter, at CanucksArmy.com on Instagram, and Canucks Army on Facebook. Make sure you ask about the 4 Winds light lager at your local liquor store or have some delivered to your front door through the online shop at 4windsbrewing.ca. Bring him in. CEO of Nation Network, Jay Downton. Jay, who's scoring the first goal on who's starting tonight? Jack Campbell?
Oh man, if that is Jay Woodcroft signing his own death wish if he does that. So Stuart Skinner is starting. He better be starting. I'm still not confident in him starting. But who's scoring first? I drink the Kool-Aid. This all started because of Oilers Nation. I'd like to remind people of this.
Okay.
The Nation Network, that is. So Connor McDavid's been on the schneid. He's been playing a little bit hurt, so I'm going Connor first goal.
Okay, so that's who Jay's picking in the Wendy's Daily Faceoff Survivor. I'm going to say Andrei Kuzmenko. Andrei Kuzmenko is going to score the first goal tonight.
And you say you're not a fan.
No. Harman.
Pedersen. I feel like if Miller's got that McDavid line matchup, then that allows Pedersen to, against some of the Oilers' other lines where they have less talent, to potentially beast there.
Speaking of less talent, let's talk about the Oilers lineup even more.
I'm emotionally compromised right now, so I'm probably going to support a lot of things you have to say, okay?
Okay, in all seriousness, if the Oilers lose tonight, a lot of people say when. I'll say if. If the Oilers lose tonight, like, what's the vibe in Edmonton right now? What's the next step? Like, are they on fire Woodcroft? Because we've had the fire chance in Vancouver. Yeah. Like, that's happened in Vancouver after we had a rough start out here. What's the next step in Edmonton?
There's a lot of hot seats in Edmonton right now. And unfortunately, Woody, who we love as a fan base, is in probably the hottest of the seats. You know, one of our biggest issues is our roster construction, which obviously would put the GM in the hot seat, but he has one more year left in his deals, or he's in the last year of his deal. So we don't know what the hell that's going to mean. So if we lose tonight, here's the fear for Oilers fans right now. Here's the fear. I'm going to tell you right now. If the Oilers lose tonight in Vancouver, you know who our next game is against?
Tell me.
The San Jose Sharks.
Oh,
trap game.
And I can't even handle what could happen.
Oh, man.
What could happen when we go to San Jose after this? So, ergo, the Oilers are winning tonight because that can't happen. It can't happen.
I don't know, Jay.
The heater starts tonight in Vancouver.
All right. Yeah, I hate to break it to you, man. This team's been playing pretty good lately. I don't know.
They can take a night off. We've got a team that's taking a night off for 6 weeks.
If there's any team to take a night off against, it's the Edmonton Oilers, just as we all would have expected at the start of the year when we were doing our projections.
Sam in the YouTube chat is wondering if the Oilers lose, will there be any Oilers jerseys on the ice tonight?
I saw a lot of them around the city today. A lot of Oilers jerseys.
Well,
already.
We travel well. You
yeah.
know?
Evidently.
We're a passionate fan base. I love going and watching the Oil on the road because you'll see so many people from Edmonton. They are just Oilers fans that come out of the woods because they live in, Ohio and they drove down to Nashville for a game. Like, it's always good to see. But will there be a jersey? Nothing hurts my heart more than seeing a jersey toss. And I thought I was at the Nashville game on Saturday, and I thought one was coming. So I guess we're not there yet, but we're very close.
Has there not been one yet?
That's the Boo Birds are out. The Boo Birds are out, which also hurts my heart. But it's warranted. It's warranted.
We had a jersey on the ice in the home opener last year. Home opener, right? Or was it the game after? They lost to Carolina. I can't remember. It was either first or second game. Yeah, it was embarrassing earlier in the year. Okay, so if they fire Woodcroft, you guys need a high-flying coach, Bruce Boudreau. I hear he's looking for work.
He get a lot out of the offense. He keeps the guys loose. I think we need a hard ass and I feel bad if we fire Woody. But this is just the business of the sport. It's a results business. What have you done for me lately?
Fair.
And Woody's in trouble, I think.
Okay, Harman, anything else in the Oilers preview?
No, I think we're all just, I think Vancouver fans are just hoping that if they get that third win against Edmonton, that like that's the, just like the dagger, and I think they'd love nothing more than to see an Oilers jersey on the ice. So I think that's all they're sort of crossing their fingers for.
All right.
It won't be mine.
Yeah. The Ekholm, you brought Ekholm?
I brought Ekholm. I was thinking Ekholm was jinxed because they weren't winning, but then it's like you can only blame the jersey so many times. So I'm doubling down, tripling down on Ekholm, the bearded one, the Viking. He's coming. He's gonna be hard to play against tonight. He doesn't have a choice.
All right, Jay, we quickly wanted to talk about the Nation Network's investment in the Vancouver market, because obviously we're in this studio, which our listeners and viewers are really appreciative of, just as we are. We bring Harman Dayal in as the co-host. Just talk about that, bringing in Harman, getting the studio, the evolution of Canucks Army and the Vancouver market with the Nation Network.
Well, like our mission and mandate, like we started as fans, right? Like obviously I brag and kind of like to hold that over because it's the only thing we have on you right now. That this started as Oilers Nation, but it started because we were just fans of a team, wanted to create content and community around being fans, and we want to do that in other markets. And the only way to do that is to work with great people like yourselves, like Sakaris and Price, who understand authenticity, who understand building community, who understand just, the love of the sport and the love of their community, and want to, work and partner with people like that because, our mission statement to sound corporate is, building community through hockey, right? It's so important because you get to do amazing live events like you did at Greta, bringing people together, sharing good times with your team. Like that's the core value of what the Nation Network is. And making the investment in Vancouver, like it's something we want to do for years, but it's finding the right people. Quads came and joined us 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
And like, look what he's done with the website, right? And then from there, now what it's turned into, now Canucks Convos become a thing, and now it's allowing us to do more and more and more. And so one thing I can assure you is these guys continue to do great things. And thank you for coming aboard, Harman. Is we'll continue to invest in this because there's so much fun stuff we can do. Once you have community around your brand, the good times are endless. So more events. I'm gonna start doing some travel.
That's right.
That's coming down the pipe. More clothing, all that good stuff. But it's because of the good work of you guys, and just the fact that you understand how to build a community.
I think we need to get Canucks Army mock turtlenecks because Harman and I are both turtleneck guys.
Oh, I would love nothing more than turtleneck.
Get us some Canucks Army turtlenecks on the Nation Gear website.
Okay. Actually, talk to us about that. We can get deeper with our clothing line now. So the Canucks Army clothing line is out, and we'll be doing some more of that and leaning on your guys' expertise with your audience on what we should do with t-shirts, hoodies, sweaters, and whatever. Turtlenecks, sorry. Right. Yeah. Well, the big thing in Oilers Nation land is sweatpants. People are like, we've been doing gear for 10 years. Everyone's asked for sweatpants. So this is I guess you guys are the Canucks Army audience is gonna hear first that we're gonna be releasing sweatpants in Edmonton. Ooh, I'm sure you care.
Yeah, we're stoked.
But turtlenecks are coming.
Get us some suits. The inside lining, the Canucks Army logo.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll start. We'll make our list.
Let's start with turtlenecks. We'll start with turtlenecks, then we'll move up to suits.
All right, Jay. Anything else you want to say to the Vancouver audience that are consuming all of the content here?
Okay. Can I say I love you and hate you all at the same time? Hate's a strong word. I do love you. I love the support you give to this brand. And I love the fact that the brand entertains you. And that's something that's very important to us because that meets our core values. I will be cheering against you tonight. I have to stay who I am. Authenticity is another core value of this company. And so I'm coming on a Canucks Conversation show and I am wearing my Oilers Nation hat. I used all my willpower not to wear my Oilers jersey to show some respect. I
wore my Oilers Nation hoodie on our last or second to last show, and Faber was like, "He's already gone corporate. He's already gone. He's he's wearing his Oilers Nation." I like that hoodie. I think, look, I'm getting a Canucks Army one. It's
now you get the right logo on it, and it'll feel even more comfy.
In fact, I actually wore it. I don't know if anybody knows this. I wore it to a Canucks practice, and it went into the dressing room wearing an Oilers Nation sweater.
Wow.
I don't think anybody noticed it. I think the only guy
sleeper cell quads going in on behalf of ON.
The only guy I talked to was Casey DeSmith, and I don't think
whose
he noticed.
team are you on?
Jay's team, man.
Team TNN. We're all a family. Just some of us cheer for the wrong teams.
That's right. right. Some of us cheer for winners. Other of us cheer for Jack Campbell.
This was born in the decade of darkness, so I know how to live in the shadows. Okay, I know pain. I am quite comfortable with pain. It's also why I'm a Cleveland Browns fan when it comes to football.
Oh man. Okay. Grady, let's get to Betway. Jay, thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
Much
guys.
appreciated.
Thank
We'll
you.
get to the Betway bet of the day here. And then we'll close it out from our brand new studio at the iconic Sheraton Wall Center. Looks beautiful in here. And we've already, Grady's already on top of the camera angles, looking very good. The next shows are going to get even better. Grady, do we have the Betway bet of the day here? I think I remember it, so I don't even need you to pull it up if you can't.
Connor McDavid score first?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
We do.
Vezina
Just give
trophy.
me
Ooh,
one
actually,
second.
I'm gonna jump on that one.
You have to jump on that one.
That's good value.
Everybody should. Over at Betway right now, Thatcher Demko as the outright Vezina Trophy winner for this season, plus 1,200 odds. A $10 bet returns you $130 over on Betway.
And folks, you're going to want to get in on this right now, because that line you see right there, that is dropping. This guy is the highest goal save above average in the league, the best save percentage amongst NHL starting goaltenders. If the Canucks keep this up, he's just going to keep rising on up. So that price is going to drop. So you might want to get in sooner rather than later.
Even tonight's game, when it's like a 7-3 victory over the Oilers, 7-1, I don't know what it's going to be. That might affect Demko's odds too.
Well, as the CEO of the company, I have to say, please bet responsibly and 19 plus.
There you go. Beautiful. All right. We'll wrap it up.
We can't
yeah.
bet then.
Yes.
I will
already
make the
put
bet.
it up. Yes,
I am
James gonna
betting.
make the bet. Yes, there you go. Yes, of course, 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, as we always say, Jay, trust me, we always do say this. Please play responsibly. Okay, we'll wrap it up there. For my co-host Harman Dayal and our technical producer Grady Sauce, Jay, thank you for joining us in studio today. My name is David Quadrelli. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Canucks Conversation.